An empirical study initiated by the Inspectorate of Government in 2021 discovered that 23% of the annual government budget is lost to corruption. Corruption in the public sector is common in many developing nations, which has an impact on contracting procedures, the allocation of public funds, and procurement procedures. Numerous studies, including the East Africa Bribery Index and the National Integrity Survey, demonstrate that Ugandan citizens frequently can only access public services, particularly health and education, if they are prepared to pay a bribe to the government employees who act as gatekeepers of these services.
Now government won't realize its goal, because now you will see that if you look at the financial year 2022 and 2023, you will find that government's projections are always affected by elements of corruption, by elements of bribe. You find that recently the Auditor General's report was indicating that some government agencies are not even making returns to URA. They're not making returns to bodies which are responsible for receiving returns, and that alone hinders the development of a country, because now we won't have a basket or a pool of funds, to sustain number of government programs and activities. Close to R1 trillion or more than R1 trillion has been lost.
In order to significantly reduce corruption, it is important to put in place strong anti-corruption laws and institutions, improve accountability, and promote openness in government spendings. Alvin Mutebi, a policy expert, argues that Uganda must put the laws against corruption into effect rather than just having them on paper.
Let us be systematic. Detect the corruption, come up with a report, and implicate the right person for having been fraudulent while in a public office. And then we shall take action based on the report that has been thoroughly investigated.
Corruption is a scourge of modern life, costing not only Uganda but the world $483 billion in tax abuse by multinational corporations and rich people, and $13 trillion in public spending lost to corruption.
But we do not have information to quantify the damages, the true actual figures, to quantify the damages that these elements of corruption has caused to the economy. Because now, to me, I would suggest that if we now start calculating, we'll be like, okay, this financial year, this is what we expected to have achieved. How much have we achieved? And what are the contributions of corruption towards this? And then we can now elevate and see, or we can now compare and see the performance of the economy, and then we see the bottlenecks, which are corruption and maybe bribery.
In order to overcome these obstacles, the government must combat corruption holistically and collaborate with the private sector to improve the business climate and increase transparency. The public has to stop accepting corruption as a way of life, but instead be aware that they have a right to decent service. Bronia Katusiime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.